I'm the scat man. I'm the scat man.
Good morning. It's Wednesday, January 15th. Welcome to NHL Puck Props presented by Sports Interaction. 14-year NHL vet Carlo Colaiacovo. It's cold. We got 2 games. What is the NHL doing to us, bud? 13 games is too much. It really is. Yeah. Especially with no late games. There wasn't even a West Coast game. I think the late games were 9 o'clock last night. What's up with this? We go 13 today, or 13 yesterday, 2 today, 13 tomorrow, and 2 Friday.
Yeah, this is typical NHL, right? Where they constantly leave fans every year complaining about something. The schedule, the playoff format, the amount of teams that make the playoffs. It's just something always did. Not the Winter Classic's now a big problem because they're not getting the ratings. But this schedule stuff is nonsense, man. I don't get it.
Don't worry. March 1st, Navy Credit Union Stadium Series will save the league. I was just looking for the playoff dates, and then I came across that, and I have no interest in the excitement of outdoor hockey is kind of lost on me, right? I remember the first one, right? Jose Theodore battling frostbite with a toque over his head. Those were iconic moments, but they kind of lose their luster, no?
They do. I mean, to the average sports fan, but to hockey fans, I don't think they do. I like the view of an outdoor rink with double the amount of people in there. The setting of the weather. I'm a big fan of it, but I guess to most people, it's and we talked about this earlier. I think what the NHL needs to do is focus more on selling the matchup versus selling the location of the game.
Yeah, give me the Blackhawks, please. Give me more Blackhawks outdoors. Outdoor hockey in Florida is just stupid. Where was the one that was outdoors?
LA, I think.
No, the one that was outdoors afternoon. I think it was 4 years ago, where the sun was melting the ice, and they had.
Yeah, they had to.
Lake Placid.
Was it Lake? Oh yes. That was Lake Placid. Yeah.
But I know they've made a mistake, and they probably figured, the blue line is attracting heat and can absolutely melt stuff. Lake Tahoe, sorry, that's what it was. Yes, thank you, D Short.
Lake Tahoe.
Yeah, that was they showed pictures of the ice, it was horrendous.
Melting,
and hopefully something like that doesn't happen again. But appreciate everybody there in the chat. Good day to the pumpers. Slow day on the Stacks. Just a slow day yesterday. I don't know where
it's been a tough go with the Stacks lately, no?
Well, scoring was down significantly last week. Last week was unders hitting at 67%. I don't think Uncle Carlo called Josh an average sports fan. He might have. I just don't like the outdoor. 2 games today. But before we get to it, let's get a little content on the go. Ranking Carlo's former coaches. I got to go down the list. You've had some incredible coaches, big name coaches down the line, right? So I'm going to drop one. I'm not going to tell you which order they're coming in. You got to rank them 1 to 5, 1 being the best, 5 being the worst, and you got to put them in order without knowing which one's coming.
Okay, so am I talking about coaches when it comes to best coaches to coach a team, or best coaches people person?
Ooh, good question. Chat, what do we think? Coaches. Let's go hockey. Their job. Good at their job.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to mix them up. I'm not going to go in chronological order either. Right out of the gate. Ken Hitchcock.
That's a tough one. Number 1.
Boom. Wow. Yeah. With number one, the best X's and O's, knows his job, coach. Amazing.
Guy came in when we were in St. Louis and completely changed our identity, completely changed our trajectory, and made hockey very easy to understand, because a lot of the times when coaches throw a lot at you, you can be, playing games with your mind and maybe focus on too much information, where Hitch just found a good way to simplify everything and was really good at making in-game adjustments. So
Sounds
Hitch.
like a Babcock shot there, playing head game. Just saw Mike Modano on Spittin' Chicklets talking about how he didn't get to how Bab sat him for game 81, so he didn't.
Yeah, I know. I saw that.
Yeah, brutal. Did Davis Payne ever say, "I'm going to bring the pain"?
No.
Okay. Number 2. So Hitchcock's number 1 right out of the gate. Number 2, Pat Quinn, first coach.
Pat Quinn would have to be number 5 for me.
He's just like a people coach. Like
he's more of just like a presence coach.
Yeah.
He was never good at X's and O's. He had the most of his success coaching veteran teams, because veteran teams could just know how to play the game and they would go out and play, and he would just be behind the bench all game yelling at the referees. So
Pat Quinn, no cup in Patty Quinn's career. That's
great man, absolutely great man, but didn't really get much out of him as a coach.
All right, 1 and 5. We got Hitchcock at 1, Quinn at 5. Paul Maurice.
I'd have to give him number 3 on this one.
Get it. One of the best guys in social.
Here's the thing with Paul Maurice is when he coached me with the Leafs, he was one of those guys that wanted us to play the game the way it's played now. Back when the game was still clutching, grabbing, fourth lines built with meat and stuff like that. So I had a great appreciation for him as a coach, because that type of game was suited for the way I wanted to play, but it was in different eras. That's why you're seeing him have so much success now, is because he coaches a brand of hockey that is successful in today's game, because you have activating defense. You have heavy guys on the forecheck. You want to play a fast game. Back when I was playing in the early 2000s, that wasn't a thing. It was just more of how long you could last in the league. You were in your late 30s, and there was still almost half the league was in their late 30s. So you had a lot of older guys still in. So, but loved them as a person. You can tell, a great guy, really good coach too.
2 and 4 left open. Final 2, Mike Babcock and Craig Berube.
So people are going to get mad at me when I say this, but
you're going to put Babcock at 2, aren't you?
I am, because I say this about Mike Babcock, and look, I've had my own personal experience with him as a person. I'd probably rank him last, but as a coach, I say this all the time to people. When you separate coach and people, as a coach, Mike Babcock is one of the best coaches in the game of hockey. His resume speaks for itself. He's a really good tactician. He's a really good game planner. He breaks the game down really well. And even within the game, he's one of the best coaches that I've ever seen go head-to-head with a coach and win matchups.
Crazy.
So that's why I give him the nod. Craig Berube is the best coach I've ever played for, just because he wasn't a big systems guy, but he was the best people person and treated everybody with respect. And he had a sort of image to him where he would hold guys accountable. He would give you brutal honesty. And that's what I really appreciated as a player. So that's why I have him as 4th.
It's pretty telling what you said about Babcock, but to put Hitchcock at number 1 to show how much respect you have for him as a coach.
I have a ton of them around. And the thing with Hitchcock too is, like, he was the most confrontational coach I've ever played with, because within the game, there was no filter with him. He would call guys out. He would chirp guys during the game, and guys would give it back to him. Like it was like a curse match behind the bench in the game between a player and a coach. But the best thing about Hitchcock is he never held on to those things. When the game was over, he'd come and ask you how your day was. He'd come and have a cup of coffee with you. He'd come and chat with you. So he was one of the best guys that could separate being a coach behind the bench and being a coach away from the game. And that's why guys really appreciated playing for him.
All right, beautiful. Love it. Love to hear it. I like the separation between coach and the difference between coaching and people, because there's a big difference in hockey. As I lost my point of view here on my script for my plays and everything that I'm doing, as I got to find it. There we go. Carolina, Buffalo. Buffalo plus 175. Home dog. Over under sitting at 6, leaning to the under. Got 2 plays here. Let's get them out. Rasmus Dahlin over 2.5 shots plus 130. JJ Peterka assist plus 175.
Ooh.
I know. He's been heating up. So Buffalo's coming off that 6-2 loss to Seattle, where Seattle scored 5 goals in 13 minutes. It was ugly. Carolina gets Shane Gostisbehere back at the point. The PP scored a goal in his return. It had gone 0 for 17 previous with, I believe, Brent Burns and Ty Smith at the top there. JJ Peterka has points in 10 of his last 13 games, 8 assists over his last 9 games, and his time on ice is increasing, which is important. 21-20 in his last 3 games versus 17-50 on the season. But if producer Mick can bring up this little quote that I found this morning about Lindy Ruff in his practice coming off that game in Seattle. I'll read the quote. "We needed to deliver it to the net sooner in terms of shots in the Seattle game," Ruff said. "Looked at a lot of opportunities where inside the game we probably passed up 15 times where we could have put it there, and we deferred outside." So in saying that, the Sabres spent all of their skate time, all of their practice time working on that situational. Getting shots on net, going to the net tips. My question to you is that actionable stuff? Like, does that carry over from practice into a game? I mean, it's not the greatest matchup versus Carolina, is one of the best shot suppressing teams in hockey. But if you spend, they're really dominant at home, which is, I'd rather take them on the road in this spot too, to get shots against. But if that's the message in practice, coming off a big loss like that, what are the chances that translates to a game?
Well, that's why you practice it, right?
Yeah.
You practice habits in practice that you want to translate to a game. So this is all about game planning. This is Lindy Ruff coming up with a certain game plan to have success against the Carolina Hurricanes. And so if he believes that a team like Carolina that is as good defensively as they are, because they keep, teams on the outside and they keep teams from shots on net, well, then as a coach, you want to put a stronger emphasis on doing the things that the successful teams against Carolina have done. And that's, have a shot mentality. So absolutely, you practice the way you play. And if that's the way that they're practicing and things that they're practicing, those are the same messages that they're going to try to carry over into a game.
So that's where the handicap goes. You find a little nugget like that where the information is what's going to change, what's not priced in. Buffalo's probably hopefully going to get more pucks to the net. So then you got to go to the Buffalo markets. You're like, okay, Tage Thompson's their best shooter substantially. Shot attempts, shots on goal per 60 are huge, but 4 at like plus 160 versus Carolina seems a little much. I didn't want to take a 4 shot on goal guy versus a Carolina team that's pretty suppressive, but researching Rasmus Dahlin, it's pretty impressive, his splits at home, and maybe you can lend some light on it to why his splits at home are so much in favor of the over at home as opposed to the road. He's 11-3 to the over on the 2.5 shots on goal at home over his last 14 games, averaging 3.2 shots per game, compared to 2.4 on the road. Is that just a matchup thing where you get last change and, okay, here I'm sending my best defense, my best offensive defenseman over the board?
That could definitely play a factor for sure. But I think the other thing too is that maybe teams start slower in Buffalo, right? Because they come into Buffalo and it's, it's the last place team, and they expect somewhat of a lighter game, and they don't have the fans to sort of get them into it. But I think for the most part, it's mostly matchup, and you get to control last change, so you can find your better players on the ice in the offensive zone more than you want. Because if there's an offensive zone face-off, but the other team has their third line on the ice on the road, you're not throwing your top pairing defenseman on there. You want to get the ice time to your bottom pair defenseman. So I think that does play a factor for sure.
Okay, like it. Plus money on that side. If you've been following Carolina, you know that Jordan Stahl's been on absolute fire. He didn't record a point in the loss to Anaheim on Sunday. And why did they lose to Anaheim on Sunday? Because it was Sunday. And that's what happens on Sundays, it always feels like. But Jordan Stahl for a point's like plus 155, plus 160. He's got points in 9 of his 15. But I think he might be late to the party because this is a guy who gets no power play time. He's playing 15 minutes of 5-on-5 plus PK stuff. He's playing with Svechnikov. So if you're going to do it, just add Svechnikov and make it plus 300, I think. But I would rather someone like Kotkaniemi at plus 170 for a point because at least he's playing second line. He's playing PP2, so he has better chances. But I'd rather him for a point at plus 170 than Stahl if everyone's kind of looking at riding a hot hand where we might have missed the bus because we know Stahl. Like, he's not going to come out of nowhere and just put up massive points, but he's had a little run. But you can't expect that constantly from a guy like Jordan Stahl, no?
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing the amount of production they've been getting from him for no special teams. I mean, he has been getting some shorthanded points, but it's been pretty impressive, the production he's been able to provide this group 5-on-5.
Adam's Digest saying, I'm so happy I have Werenski at plus 600 for Norris.
It's a good bet.
I'm like waiting for the assist to come on the Werenski goal. Fucking breakaway. Well, I can't remember the last time I've seen
a defenseman at a breakaway.
Just clear-cut breakaway from the blue line in, and I'm like, what?
He's having an amazing season, man. Has he got 60 points now?
Yeah, he's absolutely ripping it up.
50 points in 44 games, including 15 goals, most amongst all defensemen.
And leading the league in ice time, I think, still, too. Mike Ray saying, Carolina are so hard to read.
He is.
They are very hard to read. Stacks, they're going 3 lines right now, which is really difficult in terms of where you want to go judging that offense. But I think the best angle here, I like the Peterka assist just because his time on ice is increasing, and I don't think it's priced in, playing a lot on that second line and PP1. And then I think we got to take a shot at the attempts of getting more pucks on the net for this Buffalo offense. And I think the best angle there is taking Dahlin for plus money. Peterka, looked at him for a point, looked at him for the shot on goal, but I think ultimately I like those 2 plays better. And staying off anything with Carolina. And I don't know, someone's just had put out the square parlay. Carolina regulation, Edmonton regulation. I don't know if I enjoy it. I don't know. I'm not saying
both teams are on back-to-back, so I would think Carolina didn't play last night. At least Edmonton.
No, neither. These are the only teams who didn't play.
Edmonton played last night. Didn't they?
13 games. I got to double check. I thought both of these guys were the ones that were off yesterday. I didn't bet it. I didn't bet any.
Oh, no, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
They didn't.
They played the Monday games. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
My bad.
My bad. Edmonton, Minnesota plus 165. Minnesota over under sitting at 5.5. And I'm gonna need the pumpers here to throw something out. Like, what are your best bets in this game? Because I came up with absolutely nothing, and that's pretty straight.
It's hard to get a read. I mean, especially you don't know who's playing in net either, too, right? With Minnesota.
There are a ton of moving pieces, right? Edmonton 6-1 straight up in their last 7 games. They're playing well. The only loss, I believe, was versus Pittsburgh, where they did score 3 goals. Number 3 team for the President's Trophy, despite sitting 6 points out. Edmonton is, so the books absolutely love them. But a big thing here is what's going to happen, and we were talking about it. You were talking about it with me off air. The Minnesota blue line decimated, right? Spurgeon, Brodin, Faber.
Yeah.
Those are minute eaters. Right now, Brodin and Faber didn't go on the road trip. They're questionable, but I think they've been ruled out. I think coach said, no, not today. They're not going to come. I think the questionable one is Spurgeon, who was on IR, I believe, and might be able to come off. So it's interesting. Yeah. Kaprizov hasn't skated. They haven't ruled him out or anything, but he's missed 10. This would be his 10th game. Minnesota is somehow 6-3 straight up without him, but they have just 5 goals in their last 3. The Boldy, Rossi, Zuccarello line, they're playing massive minutes because they have to. Over 20 for each guy, which is pretty big. And they're plus 200 for the triple. Could be Skinner. Could be Picard. Not sure. Gustafson's great, but it could be Fleury. It's a really tough thing to figure out this early where this is.
Yeah.
And here's the only thing I kind of got for you in this term. Edmonton won 7-1 in an absolute blowout game in
Yeah.
September. Does that carry over to a better effort from Minnesota tonight?
I mean, you would think so, but I mean, it's hard to have that when you're missing those type of players, right? So I guess we would have to see who's available for the Wild to make this assumption. But Edmonton won 1-0 last game. The Minnesota Wild lost 4-1 last game. Maybe the under is the play here. Under six goals. Both teams' offense.
Yeah, if you get Gustafsson versus Skinner, that would be obviously the best matchup that you could get for it. Gustafsson's still number 2, I believe, for the Vezina. As I'm trying to put the entire stack of everybody. So this game for the triple, which correlates well, McDavid, Hyman, and Hopkins with Boldy, Rossi, and Zuccarello. That's plus 750. I mean, if you're just taking shots, Aho and Jarvis on that side, and then Thompson and Zucker are the only correlated guys. There's your 45-1 for the double.
Good luck.
Yeah, it just doesn't. But these two games could be like we could be looking at a couple 2-1 games.
Yeah.
We could be looking at a couple 6-5 games. Today's schedule just has just doesn't have a lot going for it in terms of edges, and I think the Buffalo shot on goal one is about as good as you're going to find in terms of something that's not priced in. A little swing with RNH, Hyman, Zuccarello, Rossi stack plus 525. I don't mind that.
Yeah.
But there's something there because there is correlated guys on both sides.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to focus on anything in this one, maybe Edmonton's top players, or maybe that stack there. I like the McDavid 2 points, Hyman 1, and Nugent Hopkins. But it's a tough read today.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with it's Draisaitl, who's gone to the front runner for the Hart Trophy out of nowhere, leapfrogs McDavid because McDavid went 3 games without a point?
Right? Tied with Hellebuck.
For what?
The Hart.
For the Hart?
Yeah.
No.
Yes. Yesterday it was McKinnon, Draisaitl, and Hellebuck. All the same odds on FanDuel.
Get goalies out of here. Get goalies and defensemen out of there. No way. I don't believe that. Hold on. Regular season awards. I know we got to get going here. The Hart. Like the trophies are like so high right now, like to one side outside of the Hart and maybe the Art Ross, that a lot of the books now are putting out odds of this person versus the field, Celebrini versus the field. Like Lane Hudson looked pretty good last night. That you probably
I don't know how people are still saying Celebrini's going to win it. Are they overlooking the season that Lane Hudson is having? The guy's fifth in defense scoring, and he's first in rookie scoring. He plays the most minutes out of all the rookies. Has Montreal sniffing on a playoff spot?
Celebrini versus the field. The field is plus 210.
What?
Yeah,
that's hammer time.
That's hammer time, he says. A goalie will not win the Hart. Yes, thank you very much, Adam Sanchez. So, but like Connor Hellebuck versus the field is 14-1. It's too early for that. Like it's game 40. Yeah. Like if he misses time, I don't know. Gustafsson, Mackenzie Blackwood's been on fire. He's only going to shorten up. Logan Thompson, another shutout last night. I don't know. I think it's too early to get going. But Lane Hudson. I mean, Celebrini and the San Jose offense look good, but Lane Hudson didn't lose any ground last night, I don't think. Art Ross, McKinnon minus 130. Oh, once we get to the break, is there an all-star game this year, or is that just the Four Nations?
No, just Four Nations.
That makes sense. Okay, good. Producer Mick and myself and Cheese will be headed to the cold streets of Montreal to go check out Saturday's Finland-Sweden game and then the Canada-US game on the Saturday. So looking forward to that. Yeah, Hudson was looking good last night. I do like that play. Something on that field. All right, we'll leave it at that. Just two plays in the book. We'll see what happens after skate. We'll see what happens with the lines. We'll see what happens with goaltending. But right now, that's it. Appreciate all the pumpers out there. Appreciate it. Let me know your best bets. Don't forget to hit that like button. Please do. Share, subscribe, let your friends know. Giant slate tomorrow. I might have to do my research like starting now for tomorrow's 8,000 game slate again. So much work. Yeah.
I know.
All right. Appreciate you guys in the chat. I'm Josh Ingles. He's Carlo Colaiacovo. This is NHL Puck Props presented by Sports Interaction. See you back here tomorrow, 10 a.m.